What's up, y'all? Welcome to episode 30 of Feel the Heat. And we have a little something different for you. New heat season, new era of this pod coming to you in visual form. You guys are going to have to get used to our lovely faces. Michael, how are you feeling about these new changes?
I'm surprised that you smiled on the intro. I think after 30 episodes, that is the first time I've ever seen you smile
I don't think
while
that's
saying, "What's
true.
up, y'all?" I genuinely think that's the first time. Like every
I'm
other
a
time,
happy-go-lucky girl.
well, that's definitely not true. But most other times, you do kind of like a "What's up, y'all? Welcome to Feel." Like you kind of do like this NPR mood, right? Like you kind of settle in. This time you had a bit of a smile, and that was interesting. It was different. I didn't know what to do with
Maybe
it.
it's because Kourtney Kardashian just got engaged and I'm usually monotone Kourtney, but she's happy now. So maybe I'm happier. We're starting this off on a great note.
I mean, you handle the intro.
Very well, may I say. And on top of the visual medium, we also have a Twitter page, account, handle, whatever you want to call it. So please go follow us. You can find it under our personal ones. Is it just Feel the Heat? I can't remember. Feel the Heat
It's
5 RSN.
Yep,
Correct.
matches
It'll be on
mine.
screen or in the description. It'll be somewhere for you guys.
You'll see it.
Maybe.
And also, if you guys are listening to this pod on any of the podcast apps, it will continue to go up there as an audio file. We will have two separate ones, but if you'd like to catch the visual medium, those are going to come out the day after the audio drop. So the audio is going to drop on Tuesdays. Visual will come out on Wednesdays on the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. So make sure to go check that out. We're going to make it nice and pretty for this first week. It was a really sloppy job I did on the border. So next week, Kai Chan Chisholm is doing one. His is going to be much better because he knows how to use Photoshop. But continuing to be on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Podcast, Pocket Cast, any of those 30,000 apps that Ricky always mentions, and now in visual form on the 5 Reasons YouTube channel.
I feel like this came out of the fact that I dropped my headphones like 2 or 3 times. And then you were like, people should see what a mess you are when we record. True or false?
False. I just want them to see the absolute best in us. And no part of me believes that you have caused multiple bloopers on our show in only 30 episodes that I have had to edit out like immediately
to be fair,
after.
I feel like you've edited out maybe 3 over 30.
That's about a 10% error rate. Talk to any mathematician or a science person, scientist. That's what they're called.
Science person.
We're moving on. This is a Heat podcast. Let's talk
We are
about
moving
the Heat.
on because the Heat won tonight. So we're in a good mood. Maybe that's why I'm smiling. The Heat bounced back against the Magic after a very ugly loss in overtime against the Pacers. What worked for you? What didn't work? How are you feeling?
Well, what worked? I mean, you can't say what worked without bringing up Jimmy Butler after tonight's performance. Jimmy had 36 points, incredibly efficient shooting. He was at 15 for 20, which would have been a nice way to end it, right? A nice solid 75% from the night for a guy who's not a center. That's pretty hard to come by. And then he goes and misses that bunny layup at the end. So he's 15 for 21. Doesn't sound as good. But great performance.
That's what you're focusing on?
I mean, I'm a numbers guy, so I like 79.
Jimmy gives
75%.
you that performance, and that's what you're focusing on.
Yeah, I wish he hadn't missed that last one. That is what I'm focusing on. Absolutely. But Jimmy played fantastic. The defense did their thing. Although this is the highest field goal percentage they've allowed all season long. So the first time anyone scored 40% or higher from the field against the Miami Heat. So that was something that I guess isn't that big a deal considering they won by 17. A lot of it came at the end. So Jimmy really is what worked for me. The defense obviously did their thing. What didn't? 3-point shooting was atrocious. I mean, they shot 6 for 27 for 22% from the 3-point line tonight. Kyle Lowry couldn't buy a 3-point shot. Duncan Robinson couldn't buy a 3-point shot. And that's his job, really. Nobody else could really see it falling. Only one player hit more than one 3-pointer, and that was Duncan Robinson. And he got that second 3-pointer at basically the end of the game with maybe like 3 minutes left when it didn't really matter. They need to find a way to have those shots fall because it is going to be very important for this team because you're not always going to get these 15 of 21, 36-point performances from Jimmy. We can't have that happen every night because then he's going to be exhausted by the playoffs. So the 3-point shooting is the biggest thing that didn't work for me tonight. How about you? What did you think of the game?
A win is a win. And I also appreciated the fact that Jimmy didn't just come back and have a better game. He came back and literally said F you to everyone that was doubting him and then just went off. I feel like Kyle just puts it best. He's a psycho and I love it. He is so vindictive, and that speaks to my just one of my favorite traits in human beings, to be honest, for better or worse. So Jimmy did it out there. And I think that he proved that he can do it in multiple ways, which I think a lot of people were concerned about. I don't think that he's looked that athletic in quite some time. So hopefully that continues. I also just think, obviously, having Kyle back, his ability to just look ahead and his basketball IQ is crazy. Honestly, more than his actual offense, I think that's what we were missing against the Pacers. I want to get into that a little bit later in terms of, can we just rely on everyone being healthy and being there? Because I don't think that's realistic. I still think, and again, we're going to talk about this later, I need Bam to create his own shots, and I need Bam to be the guy that he can be. Like, I feel like I want more from Bam than Bam wants from Bam right now. And I just want him to be the best he can be.
I wish you would have ended it with, I just want him to be the Bam that I believe Bam can be, because Bam does Bam things, just because of how many times you already said Bam in your
We should have just said, like,
instances.
take a shot every time I say Bam.
I mean, no, thank you. That sounds like a bad idea. But I think for me, the Bam stuff is more, he like puts himself into like this third fiddle role.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just where he places himself. And I think you're going to see it from Bam when we need it from him. Now, I understand the Indiana game is something that a lot of people are going to bring up right after I say that. I still don't think Bam really played that bad against Indiana.
It's not that he's playing poorly. It's just that I think he waits on guys to create opportunities for him instead of just taking it himself. And I think, people were talking about his aggression. And for me, I think we've been talking about his aggression wrong. I don't think it's aggressiveness in terms of his shooting or finding his way to the rim. I really think it's just his aggressiveness and his court vision. I think he needs to create his own looks and go for them. I don't think that him being third fiddle is going to work, regardless of if there's guys out or if we're fully healthy. And I expected more from him just coming off that Olympic run. He seemed more confident in all his kind of, media day interviews and kind of going into the season. I just need to see it on the court. It's early. I know he has time. It's just, I want to see him be more of who he can be.
So then I think we can call it assertiveness. If we're going to call it anything, let's call it assertiveness, right? We want him, when he catches the ball, to start looking at the rim and not the next pass.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just kind of how he is. And also, I'm going to give him this. He's playing with a point guard like Kyle Lowry for really the first time. And again, no shots intended at Goran Dragic, but these are two completely different point guards. Kyle Lowry is much more on the playmaking side. He's much more on the orchestrating the offense side, right? Making sure everything is happening. And I think Bam's still learning to play off of that. I think if we hit the midway point of the season, and this is kind of how he's playing, right? This is the status quo, which is him kind of settling for whatever shots other people get for him. Then I think I'll be looking at it differently, and I will be with you. 3 games in, I'm not ready to say it just yet. We had seen some of it already in the preseason. And like I said, I think he's going to bring it out when we need it. I think right now it's just a matter of figuring out exactly what they're doing, because I don't think they have it completely figured out yet. It still looks really good, but I think all of us can agree it's not where it needs to be just yet, right? It's not a finished product. And I think that's kind of what Bam is waiting for. I do want to say, though, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say quick shout out to Markieff Morris, because he had a really nice night tonight.
It's almost like all he needed was some time to get his conditioning right. I don't know. It's someone kept saying that like week after week. I don't really recall who, but I mean, she seemed like she was right.
I mean, I don't know who that person is that you're talking about. Again, week after week, like you act like you've brought up Markieff Morris every week.
Yes, I indeed have, from even preseason. So
where
Michael doesn't listen back our episodes. Fun fact.
Have you actually?
Yes.
Oh, well, credit to you. Okay.
Between this and Clutch Corner, I have literally brought him up every time. Royal keeps calling him the left Twix or the bad twin. And I'm like, he just needs some time. I'll debate this on Wednesday. Don't worry.
I'm sorry. Left Twix?
Right Twix, left Twix. Twix bars.
The hell's the difference?
I mean, the whole thing is like the right Twix is like the better Twix.
According to who?
I don't know. It just become a thing now. I saw it all
Nah.
over the timeline today.
You know what? Now I'm a fan of left Twix. Just
Yeah, me
'cause,
too. That's what I'm saying.
now I'm a fan of right Twix. So
Oh my
let's just keep moving. What else do you have on your rundown? Ooh, okay. So I'll ask it this time. The Heat won their opening night game against the Milwaukee Bucks in convincing fashion. Now, yes, the Bucks were not at full health. That is still a Bucks team that is formidable. They still had Giannis. They crushed them. That was great. They immediately followed up all of that confidence and trust that they had built into a lackluster, subpar, partially atrocious performance against the Indiana Pacers on Saturday night, where they lost 102-91
in overtime.
In overtime, they played the Bucks at home. They played the Pacers away. One night they had Kyle Lowry. One night they didn't. One of those 2 nights they just looked really bad. What the hell happened? Like what of those two is going to be what this season is? Is it the Bucks performance? Is it the Pacers performance? Is it a mixture of the two? What do you think?
I wish this wasn't my answer, but I think it's going to be a mixture of the two. I think that unfortunately there's going to be a lot of up and down again. I think the difference is that come playoff time, we're going to be in better shape. And I think, to your point, but a lot of other people too, I think we are more so built for the playoffs. My fear is that at the end of the day, this is NBA basketball. People are not going to stay healthy all the time. On top of that, there's no way that I believe we're not going to sometimes rest Kyle and Jimmy in hopes of, to your point and everyone else's, being fresh for the playoffs. What's going to happen if one guy, 2 guys are out? Are we just going to collapse? I hope the Indiana game was a fluke. I hope it was just one of those things where it didn't work. Jimmy had an off night. Kyle was out, and that's that. But they need to figure out a solution and fix the rotations when guys are out, because otherwise it's just going to be a roller coaster. And I know that, before we hit record, you were talking about home games versus away games. So I don't know if you want to get into that theory right now.
So I've been talking about this one for a while, right? Just the comparisons between this team as currently constructed and everything with the 2019-2020 Miami Heat team, the one that eventually made it to the finals in the bubble. There are some similarities that I see between those two teams, where the point guard position, other things that I've mentioned before, I think players are coming back up to the way we expect them to play, not what we saw the last season. Another thing that team did a lot was at home, that Heat team was pretty dominant. It didn't matter who came into that building. They were going to give them a fight, and they were either going to blow them out or they're going to win a close one. If they did lose, it felt like just completely out of the norm. It didn't make sense. When that team went on the road, though, it was completely different. They weren't a very solid team. They had a worse than 500 record, I think, or right around 500 that season. It wasn't looking good. And that's part of why a lot of people want to call out the Heat that season from the bubble run. Oh, they didn't have to play away games, which was something that the Heat struggled with. Good point. They also didn't have any home games. So what are we really arguing there? I think this team is going to be dominant at home. I think that's just the way they're going to play. You kind of saw it already. They dominated the Bucks the way they did. I think there's a lot of factors going into that one. They had a really good handle on the Orlando Magic tonight, even though they did not play that well, honestly, from an offensive standpoint, outside of Jimmy Butler. So you're looking at the team and you're saying, okay, at home, they're going to be great. Away, I'm not so sure. And also, I mean, at times they're just going to heat, right? Like, and I'll use it as an adjective there. English, I'm not very great with it, but I'll just use it as an adjective there. Like, the Heat do this. They go into a game against the Bucks and they're hyped for it. They're ready for it. It's the first game of the season. They just got swept by the Bucks. They want that revenge. They are fired up. They toasted them. Then they follow that up against the Indiana Pacers team that nobody really cares about. Not that the Pacers are terrible, but nobody's really talking about them being a really relevant seed in the East. So they kind of go in and they just kind of, it's a little bit less effort, it looks like, right? It's not as fired up. It's not as motivated. And that is just part of the way this team plays, because like you mentioned, this team is made for the playoffs. This team is made for those big games. They're made for, we're in a 7-game series. It's fight for our lives. they're going to play hard this season. I'm not taking that away from them, but they are going to have these performances scattered throughout the season. I genuinely believe that, where they play an opponent that you're like, well, that should be an easy win. And they just look flat. They just don't look ready, especially on the road. I think we're going to see a decent amount of it. I could very easily see them being right around 500, if not slightly above 500 on the road, and then a really dominant home team moving forward.
It's just frustrating though, because every team's going to have losses. Like, it's impossible not to lose, but the whole playing down to competition and kind of feeding off that, it's something I don't understand, especially from a group of guys who have crazy chips on their shoulders, who are, fighters. And, especially now our identity is just full of these dog eat dog kind of guys. So yeah, does it feel better maybe to win against the Bucks, even though they were shorthanded, whatever? Sure. But like, we can't do that and then come out against the Pacers the way we did. It's not what this team should be. And again, they can't be perfect, but I just think that mentality gets really dangerous. Especially, fine, you make it to the playoffs, but where are you going to be seated? You have to also remember that where you're seated depends on how the rest of the East is looking. So if you're going out there and maybe not going as hard consciously or subconsciously against weaker opponents, if the rest of the Eastern teams around you aren't going to do that, what are you going to fall to the 5th or 6th seed? It just, to me, I want them to go as hard every night. And it's just, I really hope that we're not repeating that.
And that's the thing. I don't want to say that they're like actively giving less effort night in and night out. And I don't think that's what's going to happen necessarily. I just think, I mean, it is a motivation thing. Like, it affects everyone, right? Like, let's say you're at work and you're preparing for a meeting of some kind, and that meeting is just you and the rest of your team that you talk with every single day. You're going to do your job and you're going to do it well. But let's just say you have that same exact meeting, except now it's with the head of the company, or just like the big boss in the department, whatever it is that you don't talk to very often. You're obviously going to take one a little bit more seriously than the other. You're obviously just going to prepare differently as well. Now, there are the people that prepare the exact same way for everything, and that is just how they are. That's just, we've never seen the Heat be like that. I mean, how many times over the years have we seen them kind of play down to whoever they're playing against and let them kind of hang around the game? And I mean, this is dating back to when Dwayne Wade first got here.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of their identity at this point, which again, to me, just makes no sense because of the type of team that Pat Riley wants to build. Now, obviously, I would rather that be our problem than the opposite, where we're fine going against lesser teams, and then when it gets to the tough part, we can't handle it. So if I had to pick one, I will take what we are. I hope it's not as prevalent this year as years prior.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it's going to be terrible. I have a bad feeling about it, especially because
this is Michael jinxing the team, by the way. You heard it here first.
What?
You are now the mush.
Oh my gosh.
I think Dono, I think Dono can
you talk to Dono too much. I don't know. It is a bit of pessimism, but it's also, I mean, it's just history. We've seen it before. And I think part of it too does lie with Eric Spoelstra. I'm not saying anything, negative towards him. I'm happy Eric Spoelstra's our coach. I think he belongs in Coach of the Year conversations every year moving forward. He is just a better series coach. He is that, let's play the game. Let's prepare for the series. Okay, here is my adjustment to the next game. Not that one night performance against a bunch of different teams just throughout the season.
That's what I've been saying. He gets tunnel vision at the beginning of a game. And then if major changes need to happen,
right. And
too bad we're not making them.
It is what it is. That's just how
I love him. Built. I think you're completely right. I think he deserves to be in that conversation year after year after year. I would not want anyone but Spo. But if we are just being real, that is a downfall of his. He's a human being. Everyone has strengths and weaknesses, and that's just it.
And for that reason, the Heat do better in the playoffs than they do in the regular season. And this has been going back forever. This is going back to when he first got here. And at the early part of his career, right, when he was coaching relevant teams, again, because those late 2000s teams just didn't really have it all together. This is what the Heat were. I don't think they were ever the number one seed going into the playoffs in any years with the big three. It was either Boston or Chicago usually. And then they had to fight their way from there. I think it's also because they partially fall into my mentality, which is it's regular season. You have to save some for the playoffs because that's when it really matters. But I know that gets you really hot and bothered because you're like,
it's just not me. That's not how I would play.
regular
And
season 100% till you get hurt.
it's 100% all the time. I mean, to your point where you just said there are some people who would prepare for both meetings the same way. I don't care if I'm meeting with my houseplant or if I'm meeting with the president. I'm preparing the same way. Like, I just don't get that mentality, but I understand that everyone's different. And again, if I had to pick one, I am riding with the Heat the way they're doing it. But I am curious to see, because I think that obviously the fact that we were not equipped for even the playoffs last season was the biggest kind of gut punch for the fan base. But I also think that along the way, people were just getting frustrated at the up and down.
Yeah, and last season was a whole just completely
an
different
asterisk
mess.
here, if you will.
Again, I'm not going to call it that because then that opens up the conversation on the bubble year. I like the bubble year. Like, I'm not
taking away from what happened. It's not like I'm saying like the Bucks didn't win a real championship. I'm just saying last year was not normal at all, and neither was the bubble.
I mean, if you're saying the Bucks won a championship with an asterisk,
no,
then
they just won a championship in a very. The Lakers won a bubble championship. The Bucks, like, it's the same thing with the lockout, right? That year was also weird. Every year that is not a normal year. I'm not saying it takes away from what they did.
Yeah, it's just NBA basketball. Plus, you know what? Those seasons are behind us. And
they are.
Especially last season, please put that one in the trash bin and bury it very far, far away where it cannot haunt us in our sleep. Now, last thing kind of on the current schedule and everything, big game coming up on Wednesday. The Heat play against the Nets. They play against the Irvingless Nets and the now James Harden frustrated offensively led Nets.
I really can't stand this team.
What, the Nets at all?
They're just such drama queens. You have KD, who is the most insecure human on planet Earth, honestly, for no reason at all, because his talent goes beyond anything. You have Kyrie, who's out there switching his story every single day. Now he's not anti-vax. He's just rah for the people who are losing their jobs. I can't. And now Harden is frustrated. Great.
You see, this is where if we were like streaming on some sort of platform, I'd scream out, clip it and ship it and send it to whoever the hell you want. Allana hates the Nets, y'all.
I've been saying this. I've been saying this. I've been consistent in this take.
I don't know. I understand Harden's frustrations. I think he's wrong. And I think half of the free throws he's been getting throughout the past, I don't know, maybe like 8 years.
His entire career?
I think he'd play a little bit differently in OKC, but fine. But all the free throws he's been getting have been that like pump fake, let me kick out my leg and shoot it completely sideways. Oh no, you touched me, it's a foul. I do agree with a certain extent. Like, he is the poster boy for it. So they're watching extra close for him. And you're not going to both say this. Dwayne Wade did not do it as bad as James Harden. But Dwayne Wade also did do like the pump fake, let me jump sideways.
Sure,
take this
but
jump
here's
shot.
the thing. Dwayne Wade is a lovable fella. James Harden, not so likable, which is all his own doing. So
He's
don't
got
really
a
feel
lovable
bad.
beard.
That beard's disgusting. Imagine kissing that.
You know, that's not something I've ever really wanted to think of.
I don't want to think of that either. That's a no from me.
You brought it up, right? You've now scarred everyone listening and everyone watching.
Okay, any female or other males listening, whatever you're into.
Why not just anyone watching? You could have just gone with anyone watching.
Anyone watching, fine, whatever, is now going to agree with me. Who wants to go through that?
The people that like James Harden. I don't know. I'm not going to judge them. People like beards. I don't know.
I hope he uses beard oil at least.
I'm sure he uses a good amount of product in that thing.
I hope so.
I'm sure he does. I cannot believe you have done this to us. Okay.
That's all I can think of when I look at him.
Do you want to talk about the Nets and what we can expect?
Go ahead.
Miami Heat? No, I'm asking you. Okay,
we're coming out guns blazing because it's the Nets.
Exactly.
Right.
Because the Heat doing what they do. You got a big opponent. Ooh, they're gonna come out swinging.
I'm a little scared of KD. I'm not gonna lie.
I mean, the best we can hope for is like a 25-point performance from KD, and that would be a successfully defended Kevin Durant.
Right, which means that our offense has to crank out.
I think our offense has to focus on stopping everyone else. Obviously, you've got to focus on Kevin Durant, but you're not going to stop him. And I think if you focus too much on him, then you let other people kind of do it.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't think KD can beat this current Heat team by himself. I think
No.
he's a phenomenal player, but the dude would have to go off for like 50 or 60, which he can. He really can. They can go out there and throw 3 guys on him, and he'll still make every shot he wants if he's having that kind of night. So the point is, do your best against KD, really focus on stopping the other pieces and make sure that the offense is flowing. You cannot shoot, 22% from the 3-point line.
Mm-hmm.
You can't. You got to fix that. Jimmy scoring 36 points, really slowing the game down like that with all those inside. You need a more well-rounded offensive performance to win that game. But I agree with you. I think the Heat are going to come out strong. I mean, they did last year even that one game. Wasn't the one game was basically just Bam?
Mm-hmm.
It was just Bam playing with anybody else that we could throw out there, and Bam still found a way to win those games. So I think this will be fine. And I am curious to see if Bam does that again, because he had 2 really strong performances against the Nets.
Yeah, Bam does seem to do well against them. I wonder if
like
there's some personal thing in him.
Yeah, sometimes players just really like playing against a specific team and they have their number. So basically any random scrub against the Heat, right? I think Bam might be that with the Nets. Let's see if that happens again. Maybe this is the game where he listens to feel the Heat and he says, you know what? I really got to shut Allana up. Let me go out here and score 25, 30 points.
You're going to make this a me being anti-Bam narrative, and it's not that. It's in fact, I like Bam so much that I just want him to do as good as possible.
I'm not making a you versus Bam thing. I'm not.
Someone will take this and run with it.
You made it a you versus Bam.
No, not what it. I'm sorry. Did you not say that I hated Bam before you hit that little record button?
Do you have a recording of me saying that?
Is that okay? So that happened. But let me just rewind for 1 second. You're talking about 3-point shooting. Your boy Duncan.
Oh yeah, you see, because this is how it is, right? When he struggles, he's my boy Duncan.
He's never my boy. I like the guy, but I've never claimed him. So what's going on there?
Duncan's struggling. It happens.
Why?
Shooters have
concerned?
bad games. No.
Okay.
I'm not. Again, this is 3 games in. Just like I'm not saying that Bam won't be more assertive the rest of the season, or that Tyler is going to continually put out 30-point performances. I'm also not going to say that Duncan is going to be this the rest of the season. I need a larger sample size for myself to really see it this way. Because if we're talking like that, let's just be honest. And this is because Kyle's still new here. So on my list of pecking order, I still see Duncan as my boy first. Kyle's really struggled too.
But we don't need that from him.
Oh, okay. Right. But shooting the ball, he struggled, but we're just gonna it's fine.
But we don't need that from him. We need one thing from Duncan. I agree with you. It's way too small of a sample size. I'm just playing devil's advocate here, where if you're going to say that, Duncan has one job. We don't need Kyle to
and he's not doing it well right now. He's not. He's missing way too many shots. I think, what was it? Against the Bucks, Duncan Robinson was 2 for 8 from the 3-point line. Against the Pacers, he was 4 for 9 against the Pacers. Still not great, but better. And then tonight against the Magic, I think he was 2 for 8 again. Yeah, he was 2 for 8 again.
Well, here's a question that I saw on Heat Twitter, and I'm curious to hear your take.
Ruh-roh.
Does Tyler belong in the starting lineup over Duncan? I happen to agree with you, but I just want to hear you out.
Personally, I think no. And this is not me saying that Duncan Robinson is a better player than Tyler Hero, because right now Tyler is playing way better, especially tonight, where he wasn't getting it so much in the scoring department. He was moving the ball well. He was doing a lot with passing. He was playing very smart, wasn't forcing up too much, especially when the Magic really keyed in on him, for them defensively, him offensively. I just think Duncan fits the starting lineup better. Now, this is what we had talked about before, though, in our preview of the season. When it comes to closing lineups, that's where things are going to change. And if Tyler is playing like he's played so far this season, and Duncan is playing how he's played so far this season, give me Tyler in those last 5 to 6 minutes in the fourth quarter with the regular starting lineup, sub him in for Duncan Robinson. But to start the game, I think you got to see what Duncan's got, especially because really early on, you can tell if he's going to be hot or not. If he comes out and makes his first 3 threes, the opposing defense is really going to have to key in on him. That's going to open it up for everyone else. And I love Tyler Hero, but that's not Tyler. And that's not max either, right? Like that consistent running around, tiring out a defender, making them really key in on him. They aren't there just yet. So for now, Duncan Robinson stays in the starting lineup for me.
Yeah, for me, it's mostly that the second unit needs a guy like Tyler more than they need Duncan. I think that right now, especially without Depot, the second unit is sparse, and especially depending on who we play against. So I would rather have a guy who does a little bit more and is more well-rounded. Not to say anything against Duncan, because I think you're right. I think Duncan is more skilled in certain things, and I think he zeroes in on something that the starters need. But to put Tyler in there and then have Duncan be that energy for the second unit, especially if Duncan is not feeling it, that leaves the second unit even more open for disaster. So I don't really know. I saw it, a few people talking about it on Twitter. I'm not really sure what the argument would be for the other side of things, especially because for me, I don't feel like Duncan's one of those guys who needs time to warm up. I think he's either hot that night or he's not. So to stick him on the second unit just doesn't make any sense.
Well, and also, I think he's a good player. I think he could find a way to make his shot happen no matter who he's with, but he would have a really hard time making his shot happen with that second unit. Right? He just plays much better off of Bam and Jimmy with Kyle and them. It makes a lot more sense for him to be in the starting lineup now. And I will say this plainly, if Duncan isn't making threes, if this is how his season is going to go, it's going to be hard to find a place for Duncan on this team, because that is his job. That is his thing. He's trying to improve everything else. And I think he's maybe gotten marginally better at a lot of it, but it's not where it needs to be to really justify not making the threes. So if that continues to happen, they're going to have to start looking at making some changes there. But we're 3 games in. I'm not ready to say that just yet. It's really early. Let's see where he goes moving forward.
One guy that I am a little bit concerned about, though, is Gabe Vincent, because in the Pacers game, again, I know Kyle was out, but that's just not an excuse. And I don't know what we're going to do about the backup point guard position. I think that things will change
available
when Depot.
If the Heat need help, I am available.
Oh,
no.
You think you could do better than Gabe Vincent?
Yes. No. Realistically, no. For the clout, yes.
For the clout.
For the clout. That's all that matters.
Mr. Michael's here for the cloud. You heard it here first.
Okay, yep, go ahead.
Oh, wow. Okay. This is why we need the visual, because you might have taken that out, but now I'm going to demand you leave that in.
Oh, I was always going to leave that in.
Okay, as long as you're comfortable with whatever you just did. For the clout. Yeah, right. With a K.
No, that's not how you spell clout.
With a K.
Just keep talking. Okay.
Talking. Vincent, solutions. Any?
I'm wearing the jersey of the solution, right?
Right.
Numero 4.
So until
Depot returns, I think this will suffice. I will say this. Kyle Lowry not being at the game against the Pacers was a bummer. And it is part of why the team didn't play very well. But you shouldn't need Kyle Lowry to beat the Indiana Pacers. You really shouldn't.
But without Kyle Lowry, we're basically the same team we were.
And the team that we were is still a team that should beat the Indiana Pacers.
But we've learned from history that we're not that team. So I do think that needs to be addressed at some point.
And I think they'll find a way to fix it. I think they're going to find a way to fix it. I think Victor Oladipo is going to do a decent amount of that. Also, that was one game from Gabe Vincent. We haven't really seen Gabe Vincent play yet. We saw the one. It wasn't great. He played 2 minutes against the Magic there at the end of the game. He played at the end of the game against the Bucks when the game was basically completely done.
But I do think, and I've been saying this for a while, I'm not saying that whoever we get as a backup is going to be Kyle Lowry caliber, but the gap in talent between first unit, second string, I don't know if it's going to be enough. Again, it is dependent on Depot. I also think that that's part of the reason that I would always leave Tyler, off the bench, because he needs to kind of fill out that void. But to go from Lowry to Gabe Vincent is quite a jump. And that is nothing against Gabe Vincent. I just think that if there is something that we need to address, to me, that would be the number one thing right now.
I think the thing that we need to figure out with that second unit point guard is, what is that point guard's identity?
Well, he said he wants to be a traditional point guard.
What does he do? What does he do well? Because if you told me we brought in a second point guard who was like a defensive ace, offensively is not that great, okay, then we can build around it. We can work it. Or you found a guy who offensively can make it happen, gets a decent amount of threes, not so much of a playmaker. Okay, we can figure it out on the defense, but we don't know what Gabe Vincent is.
He's a playmaker. That's what he's trying to be.
That's what he's trying to be, but he's not that. He's not that right now. And I think even Gabe Vincent is still learning how to do that. And I don't blame him. He's a young player. He's still trying to figure out the NBA game is not easy. But if you don't know what you are, how is the team supposed to be built around that on the second unit? I think really what it's going to come down to is you're going to help gap that talent, that big old talent gap with playing some of those first unit guys sparsed in there. And you're just going to have to continue to do that. I mean, you're never, ever, ever going to want the entire second unit out there unless it's the end of the game and the game is basically over or they have a huge lead. So you're going to have to keep kind of rotating them in and out like that until you feel like you have that solution. And honestly, maybe Depot comes back and Depot's playing well, but even he's not the solution. Even that isn't really working too well, and they don't know who's supposed to handle the ball and everything. We'll see when he does start playing, whenever that is. But I think right now, I'm not ready to give up yet on Gabe Vincent. I want to give him a decent shot out there. It's just, listen, with Tyler playing the way he's playing, I'm not saying he's a point guard, but he's doing enough where I think I don't even think Gabe needs to be there. I think they've got that second unit rotation pretty figured out. I mean, you saw it tonight against the Magic. They knew what they were doing, and I was never really worried about it. So
we did see it tonight, but my thing is there's no way that Kyle's not going to be out again.
And that is something that I think they needed to account for when they got him. And that is something that they really should have thought of. And if this team is going to play great at home and is going to want to make a deep playoff run, they're going to need a high seed. If you want a high seed, you're going to have to play well in the regular season. And they should have figured this out before. And I genuinely think that part of them believes Depot is that solution.
Which he very well might be.
Yeah. And if it's not Depot, then I don't know where they're looking at, because as much as we love some of those other younger guys. Well, listen, I could go out there and I'd hit a couple threes. Defensively, I'd be terrible. I know that 100%.
I can't even imagine what that looks like.
But put me on the corner. Oh, I could do PJ Tucker's job. I could do that.
Watch it now.
Throw up some of those corner threes.
Watch it now.
I could hit one. I could hit one every third game.
He's one of one.
It's fine. He's one. Well, he's probably one of like 15 from the corner three, if we're being honest.
It's not what he brings to the table, sir. It's not what he needs to
bring.
I'm
like the opposite PJ Tucker.
Right? Okay, so you're anti-PJ.
Defensive tenacity.
Got it. Okay.
But I bring the I
would get your jersey
from the corner. Oh, well, you see, my jersey would be a tricky one because my last name is Christian. So then I feel like admittedly, I tried to order a self-made jersey one time off the NBA store and it didn't let me.
Wait, why?
Because my last name is Christian, which is a religion. So then I typed in and I was like, what happens if I wanted to put Muslim on the back of the jersey? You can't do that. No, I'm serious. If you try, you couldn't.
That is absurd.
You can't put religious stuff.
But it's your name.
I can't. I don't know what to do.
If I were you, I literally would have called customer service and be like, do you want to see my driver's license?
I'm sure they do. I'm sure they do it then, but legitimately. And this happened. I think I have a tweet about it too. There's genuinely probably a tweet somewhere deep back
Ricky,
there.
Go find this now. Ricky digs up my tweets from 2010 on a weekly basis. It may have been on
a different account or something. But legitimately, I go into the site. I have my number, which is 16, right, which is my birthday, and I type my name and I get through the whole thing until I get to the end, and then it doesn't let me type the end. So I thought it was a character thing, and then when I tried the longest last name I could find, it let me do it. It's literally just they won't let me put my last name on the back of a jersey online.
What about your middle name or a nickname?
But that's not what players have on the back. They have their last name.
Well, there was remember those jerseys with nicknames on them, like Flash? Those were so sick.
First of all, I don't have a nickname. And if I did, it's definitely not going to be Mr. Michael. Yeah, I was going to go there. I'm not putting Mr. Michael on the back of my jersey.
I would wear a Mr. Michael jersey.
That sounds so terrible. But hey, listen, call me up. I am available. Give me a point guard tryout. Let's go.
I would die to see this.
I'm on the small side though for NBA.
I kind of want to play you in horse now.
I mean, come on.
You don't know.
I'm pretty confident I do. You don't seem like the most basketball savvy.
No, I think I could.
When you shoot, do you put your right hand behind it, your left hand on the side, or are they just both kind of equally behind it to really get some force on the shot?
No, they're staggered.
They're staggered? Okay.
The only thing is I'd have to get rid of these claws because there's no way.
saying claws like she's a tiger. Would you like to talk around the league? Or actually, wait, before we go around the league, I think we need to talk about Senior Baby Goat.
Yes.
And he is now Senior Baby Goat.
Mm.
Right? He's not just Baby Goat. Because
he's elevated.
I mean, according to Shaquille O'Neal, he's in that conversation with the big dogs and Luka and Trey. I personally don't think he's there just yet. I think that's a big ass claim. But he's playing really well. I think the first game, he was a first Heat player in something like 20 years, maybe more than that, 20 years to have 25 points, 5 assists, 5 rebounds plus in 24 minutes. And then against the Pacers, 30 points, 10 rebounds coming off the bench. Really one of the only reasons why the Heat were still in that game. And tonight, I think he had, what was it, like 11 points, which isn't very much. Let me see.
No, but he
had 13 points.
Correct.
He had 13 points, 9 assists, 5 rebounds. And those assists were some pretty nifty assists. He had that no-look bounce pass to Markieff. Your thoughts on Senior Baby?
I said this on Alex Dono's show earlier. Like his mental state right now is unparalleled. You can tell he's having fun every time something, and not only when he does something good, but like even in support of his teammates, he's genuinely having a good time. And I think that goes a long way. I think between that and the fact that obviously his conditioning was super upgraded. I don't know. It's a whole new Tyler. I think he knows he has a lot to prove. I think that a lot of the comments from last season, not only including him in trade packages, but just across the league of, was he a fraud in the bubble? I think it got to him. And I think at first it was it was harming him more than doing good. But now I think he's turned that into motivation. And I mean, I'm not going to say that we're going to, necessarily see 25, 30 points from him every night. But now I'm starting to think that maybe I was a little bit low on the 16 to 18. Maybe it's more like 20. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Maybe it is what Ethan said, and he's going to be the leading scorer on this team. Man, the things that would happen the day that Ethan is correct in a preseason prediction, I would genuinely worry for all of our souls, legitimately. But hey, kudos to him. So far, he's looking like he really got that one. So that kind of wraps it up on some of the Heat stuff, except for one last Heat thing. And it is the Feel the Heat. And you want to know, so I'm proud of us. We created this specific segment, right? And it doesn't have like a trademark or anything.
Not yet.
Well, like it's us, and I'm proud of it. And it is Culture Player of the Week. Now, for those of you that don't remember Culture Player of the Week, that was something that we came up with last season, which I guess that's the first season we started. So it's not like we have a history there. But Culture Player of the Week is the player that we think in the past few games from when we last recorded kind of embodied the most Heat culture. And those are the intangibles, the grittiness, kind of that fighting for the ball, those little things that don't show up on the stat sheet all the time. So it's not always going to be just the guy that scored the most points or the guy that had the flashiest numbers. It's going to be kind of everything else there. So I have mine in my head, and I have a very specific reason for it. And now I feel like you're going to be upset about it because you are anti this player.
No,
but
I'm not. I
Allana,
knew you were going to.
Allana, would you like to go first on your Culture Player of the Week?
You should know who I'm going to say.
It's me. Thank you. I'm truly
Mr.
honored.
Michael.
Who is it?
It's Miami PJ. Okay. This man went down in Indiana, but he didn't care. And before that, actually, I think we weren't sure if he was going to play. He turned his ankle a little bit, then he slipped, which, by the way, I watched, I think 2 or 3 games yesterday. They had to clean the floor like 17 times in every game. Don't know what's going on there this year. Like 4 players between us and Indiana fell on Saturday night. Regardless, this man has grit. He doesn't give up. Culture all over the place. I love PJ Tucker.
PJ freaking Tucker, Miami PJ, as only one person in the entire world calls him.
I'm gonna figure out a way to make it known to him that I call him that. Like, that is my only goal.
Well,
I also really want a jersey.
Nice. Do you want like a free jersey, or you're gonna buy one? Is this you like baiting for a free jersey?
Oh, I mean, if someone wants to buy me one, like, I will give you my address in a heartbeat, but I meant like I was going to buy it for myself.
It's a really, really bad idea, but I'm gonna let you continue with that.
Oh, well, I mean,
Explain it.
I
It's
get,
fine.
I don't,
Yeah.
I
Okay.
don't get my
Whatever.
packages to my house.
Guys,
I'm not
I
stupid.
apologize. She's weird, guys. I don't know what to do. My culture player of the week is Allana's just like,
no.
she's just gritting her teeth, just like, man, this guy really grinds my gears.
I like him a lot. There's no player on our team I don't like currently.
It is Bam Adebayo. And why is it Bam Adebayo? I agree with you. He could have been more assertive this week. But if there's one thing that people really harped on with Bam, is we wanted to see Bam get more rebounds. We wanted to see him make that improvement. It is early, but Bam Adebayo is already averaging 14.5 rebounds per game. Last season, he averaged 9. The season before that, he averaged 10.2. I think a lot of that is because Kyle Lowry being on the team kind of helps put him a bit more in the paint. Having guys like PJ Tucker and Markieff Morris, who are going to be a bit better at boxing out, definitely helps that a lot as well. But Bam is doing it, and he's doing his job well. I think there are other things that need to be overcome in his game so far, but I'm happy to see that he's saying this is one thing that takes nothing but effort. Mm-hmm. That is it. Yes, there's a bit of luck with the way the ball bounces, but if you've watched The Last Dance, you saw, kind of that practice that Rodman had where he'd just throw the ball and watch where it goes and just catch it. And throw it and catch. And he had that really weird, just like, whatever the heck he was doing, like a crazy man.
I love Dennis Rodman.
Bam is doing it, and he's doing it well. I wanted to give him a big shout out on that because, listen, averaging 14.5 rebounds is not easy. And this isn't like it's 120 rebound performance and then everything else is really low. Against the Bucks, Bam got 13 rebounds. Against the Pacers, he got 16. And tonight against the Magic, he got another 13. If he is a consistent double-double like that, and he improves his scoring to where I think he will be by the time we reach the midpoint in the season, first of all, this man is going to be a lock for the all-star spot, right? And you have to say that he is going to be a big part of why this team is so much better defensively, because the second chance points for the team are taking a huge dive. And so, Bam, culture player of the week, sir. Wear that crown. We should get like little crowns and like send them to the players, because I know it would really mean a lot to them, right?
And you totally can get their addresses without any sort of problem.
Send it to the arena. I know where the arena is. Like little stickers, and they can like hang them up in their lockers, right? And just like a little sticker.
I would die of happiness
for every week, right? And it's like a little sticker with FTH, right? And the H is like the Heat symbol, and they just like hang it up. That would be awesome. They wouldn't care, and they'd be like, "What the hell is this?" But I think it'd be cool.
Let's make this happen.
Sure. Let's make stickers.
New seasons. Dream big, Michael.
Season spelled SZN.
That's right.
Off the court or other stuff, other teams. You want to talk about other teams?
Okay. Zion. I cannot understand how a player who is getting paid millions of dollars to play a game does not care about his conditioning and is now near 300 pounds. I have said this since day one. I did not think that Zion would transition into the league very well. Doesn't look like that has happened.
I don't know what to say. The guy, he's just a heavy dude. He has to learn to either.
No.
Okay. If I could full screen you right now, I would, but.
There is a reason that Pat Riley harps on world-class shape. This is your job. On top of that, the older he gets, the harder conditioning will be. On top of that, there is a reason why his foot is not healing properly and why it keeps getting re-aggravated. I'm not saying that's the reason, but it's not helping his recovery one bit.
Sure.
I don't know if this is true or not, but I saw somewhere like a week ago that there was some quote where he basically was like, my family is really helping me get conditioned. Your family may be supportive from the back. Your family cannot be the only thing you have helping you get in shape.
I'm sure
Where is your nutritionist? Where is your personal chef? Where is your personal trainer? Is there something I'm missing here? I'm so annoyed.
I don't know what to say. He's a kid. And you have to say this about Zion too. Zion isn't
Go ahead.
Okay.
He's a kid. But we, Heat, Twitter Nation, whatever you want to call us, had a problem with Tyler having a Chipotle bowl because his job is to be a basketball player. And why is he getting distracted? Your job is to be in shape.
I mean, your job is to play basketball. You can be whatever shape you want as long as you're playing basketball.
Play. Well. You can't. I mean,
that's not true. Charles Barkley was a fairly heavy player.
No. But Zion cannot play right now because he's injured and recovery is taking so long.
Right.
So he's not doing his job.
Look, here's what I'm going to say. Zion is 21 years old.
Okay.
I'm not saying he doesn't love basketball, but also who's to say that like basketball is like this giant passion of his? We don't know this. Hold on. We don't know this. You remember a guy that played in South Florida who basketball obviously wasn't always the number one thing to him? You know who I'm talking about?
No.
Justice Winslow? I'm pretty sure Justice said it.
Any comparison there?
No, I'm not saying no. My comparison there is like sometimes this happens. Zion Williamson is an athletic freak. He can jump out of the building at whatever weight. Hold on. At whatever weight he was carrying when he did it. So I'm sure it became easy to just kind of like, it's going to be fine. Let me just do other stuff. Or
that's
if there's
all
an injury,
well and good, but I have a problem with it.
I think I agree with you. He needs to find a way to keep himself in better conditioning. I just think, I don't know. I think he'll figure it out. If you told me his entire career gets derailed on this, that's going to be really unfortunate because he can be a really good player in this league. So I do hope that he gets better. But at this point, I don't know. I don't feel like it helps him at all when everybody is constantly floating around pictures of him and his weight. Right. Or like constantly like getting on him about that kind of stuff. Cause I'm sure that's tough to like sit there and take. Also, we don't know how easy it is for him to lose weight. It's different for everybody. Maybe for him, it takes like twice as much training as everybody else.
If he came out and said, I have really been struggling with this. The injury got in the way. I'm not used to having to be in a certain condition because, in college, whatever, fine. He seems pretty lackadaisical. And I feel like the reason that people are now getting on this is because of that. I will say from day one, and I have tweets going back that I did not think he would translate well. I didn't think his game would translate well. I even said it doesn't seem like he's going to care about conditioning. So I've said this for a while, but I think now the problem that people are having is that he's just saying like, my family will help me. And then I read a quote, I think earlier today, where he said like, well, I don't want to lose a lot of weight because then I'm not going to be able to be as tough. And it's like, are you just going about this blindly? I'm sorry, my mind is blown. I feel as bamboozled as the whole Ben Simmons thing right now with him.
I think I feel more bamboozled about the Ben Simmons thing just because dude's a straight up dummy. I'm like, what are you doing?
My only thing with the Ben Simmons thing is that without knowing the ins and outs, mental health, like I don't feel like I can comfortably sit here and say that he's not actually going through something. I think there's a lot more to it. I think it does seem like a little suspect that you're now throwing that in there. However, I just don't ever want to comment on someone's mental health because you really don't know what's
right. And again, maybe Zion's going through it too.
Sure. But then
he doesn't, but that's the thing, right? He doesn't have to say that. Like he doesn't
have to say that, but then people are going to say the opposite. Like you're in the public eye at this point.
It's just one of those things where it's like, look, you have to be in you have to do a better job conditioning. You have to be in better shape and you have to be available. That's what it comes down to. Mm-hmm. Now, again, some players are in the best shape of their lives and they still get hurt.
It's true.
And they still can't stay on the court. It happens. It just seems like with Zion, the reason why everybody's getting on him is yes, because he's heavy and it's his foot, right? So it's just like, it feels like a very easy, like, oh, you see, that's why. And so, yeah, maybe that is it.
Well, and I also just think there was a lot of hype around him when he came in. It's not like he came in sneaky and now people have started to just learn.
Didn't the Pelicans get a Christmas? Didn't we play the Pelicans on Christmas Day? Or something like that? Or like, we played the Pelicans at some point in a really marquee matchup.
Yeah.
Because it was Zion.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. He's like super hyped up, which is why I think people are on him even more. I think
he's going to be super hyped up. I just, again, we all kind of saw this with him coming into the league. He
I
wasn't
sure did.
the skinniest player. Also, we don't know exactly how he would play at a different weight. We really don't know that. I just think he needs to find a way to make his game work in healthy, like consistently basketball playing shape. If he can't make it work like that, then he's not going to have a place in the
No,
NBA.
and
very
no
long.
one's sitting here saying like you need to be crazy. You're never going to be like people's bodies are what they are, right?
Oh, he's
like,
never going to be Jimmy Butler size.
You're
like,
never, and no one is saying that. It's just that to me, it's more so the attitude and just like the quotes coming out that are just like, I'm sitting there like, are you hearing yourself? And also, why is this camp allowing this?
It's Nolans, right? They're pretty chill down there. It's easy living down on the bayou.
It doesn't seem like they are chill with him at all. And
if I lived in a town with that many,
there.
If I lived in a town with that many beignet shops, I mean, I'd have a hard time laying off of them too.
All right. Well,
on po' boys and gumbo. What other New Orleans
someone
staples
who's looking really good lately? Zach LaVine. I'm going to put this out there. If he continues to play like this, he may be in the conversation. Now, I want to make this very clear. The conversation.
Allana thinks Zach LaVine is
MVP. Of MVP. No, stop, because I know this is going to be twisted. I think that he is going to be in the conversation if he continues to play like this.
I mean, if the Bulls continue to win games and not lose, sure, they're going to have to pull somebody into that.
All right. I am not going to pretend. I am not going to pretend like what happened off screen did not happen. Michael, why do you have to be like this?
Like what? What did I just say?
Michael thinks that because he's a Heat fan, he has to hate every other team. You can support the Heat and also like praise players from other teams when they're doing a good job or take note of other teams that are on the up.
Sure, if I like the player.
Happen to be.
If I like the player.
What do you have against Zach LaVine?
I don't have anything against or for Zach LaVine. He's just there. He plays for the Bulls. I don't care.
But you do have something against it because you almost bit my head off before we started recording.
No. What I said was it's premature to start talking about Zach LaVine and MVP conversations.
It's premature to talk about anything at this point. Do you want to have a pod or not?
It's not premature to talk about the Heat going 81-1. But also, all I'm saying is everybody's like hyping up the Bulls and everybody then in the preseason ranking.
They look good. And also, okay, when you have struggled through many seasons of just trash, you're going to get excited.
What you don't understand is that I understand Bulls fans better. I will literally say better than you do.
That's impossible.
Well, it's not. Because Bulls fans have lived in the past for a long time. They've lived off of Michael Jordan and everything.
Not even.
Did. And those, I mean, come on. Like off of those
I
great teams.
don't think so.
No.
I don't think that's why. I don't think that's what they're holding on to. I genuinely, and I think I can't remember where I said this, but I made this point at some point earlier this season. The thing about Bulls fans is regardless of how the team is doing, they are showing out, they are diehard, and they are just riding with what's going on. They're miserable doing it, but they're there. And I feel like finally they have something to hold on to.
Sure. But what I'm saying is, I understand Bulls fans because of a team of mine in a different sport that shall not be named because they make me depressed, that has struggled forever. I don't know success from that team. I don't know true success from the Miami Dolphins. I'm going to watch them all the time. All I'm saying is it's very early. Everybody that had mentioned the Bulls in their preseason rankings as being one of the better teams is now down around me like, look at me. I'm so smart. I'm so smart. The Bulls have played 4 games, and those 4 games have been against Detroit twice, the Zion Williamson-less New Orleans Pelicans.
Have you watched a single?
Are you going? And
have you watched?
Have you watched
a single Bulls game?
Raptors,
even preseason. Have you watched a single second of the Bulls game?
We're like, look at them.
I'm not sitting here saying they're gonna finish above the Heat. Even all I'm saying is they look much better, and Zach LaVine is going to have a great season. That's all.
You know what? It's fine. You can say whatever you want about the Bulls. I don't have to talk about the Bulls. They don't matter. They're not even in our division.
Okay, but that's not the point. Why can't you just like have conversations about other teams without getting all fired up and then like shitting all over them?
Because, okay, if it's a team that I don't have a problem against, it's fine. For example, The Warriors. I like
Why?
the Warriors.
Why do you have a problem? What do you have against the Bulls? Because I live in Chicago. Is that it?
No. 2011, 2012.
Oh my God. You're now who's living in the past?
What do you mean? We always played them. They were always the talk of the town. One of their players stole an MVP from our guy who should have won the MVP that season. I'm like, you know what? I don't like you now. I don't have to like them. I can think whatever I want.
Okay,
there are teams
whatever.
that I don't care
Go
about. For
like
example,
the Warriors with the silver spoons in their mouths. Okay, go have fun with the soft team and the fake tough guys. Peace out.
First of all, I've liked the Warriors ever since I was in college. Back in 2010 and 11, when the Warriors weren't that good. They had Steph, but they weren't. I mean, come on, it wasn't the Warriors that everybody's always been like, oh, a bunch of bandwagon fans. I like them then. I just like Steph Curry. I don't have a problem with the guy. I like him. Seems like a good guy, just chucking up a bunch of threes. And you, ma'am, are just salty. And I will call you out on this. Because
salty.
1 second. There is a team that you didn't put on this rundown, and this is going to be our last topic. What is the team that I'm going to bring up that you didn't put on the rundown? Say them.
It's
Say it.
early. You
Say
can't tell anything. Like, you can't make any predictions because it's only been a few games.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Melo, though, you know what? Bring him up because Melo, he is going to have one heck of a season, and I'm so excited.
Yeah, every fourth night.
No, every night from here
every
on
night.
Out. Book it.
Every night.
Book it.
That 2004 All-Star team is looking mighty suspect. Losing them games at home.
Oh, but it's early and we can't. Like, the Bulls aren't. You don't know.
That's what I'm saying.
It's too early.
That's what I'm saying. I'm so mad.
I literally want to like wring your neck.
I'm so glad this is in video form. I don't understand why I can't just like.
Because you don't have
like other
reasons.
Teams. Yes, I do. I just don't like them. I'm a Heat fan. Everybody else can screw off.
Okay, we have to wrap this up.
You know what? And you want
any closing words?
Yes, Royal. When you listen to this, I know you're gonna back me up on this. The F do I care about other teams? They can all lose every single game they play, and I don't care for their success.
How the world works.
That's how mine works, and that's the one I live in.
Michael lives in La La Land. Good night, y'all.
La La Land is 1 and 2. Good night, y'all.